There are moments in your life that split everything into before and after. For me, that moment came on a Tuesday afternoon at a red light on Morrison Street in downtown Portland. 6 months after I signed divorce papers. 6 months after I walked away from the woman I loved for 7 years. I was sitting in my car, coffee in hand, thinking about a meeting I had in 20 minutes. The rain was coming down hard, the way it does in Oregon during late fall. My windshield wipers were working overtime, and then the light turned red. I stopped, looked up through the rain, and there she was, walking across the street right in front of my car. My ex-wife, Rachel, 8 months pregnant, carrying our child, the child I told her to abort, the child I walked away from, the child I convinced myself didn't exist anymore. But there she was, still pregnant, still carrying my son. And in that single moment, watching her walk slowly across that intersection with one hand on her belly, I realized something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. I had destroyed everything over a lie I told myself, a lie about what mattered, a lie about who I was. This is the story of how my fear turned into the biggest mistake and how sometimes you don't get a second chance to fix what you broke. Hello friends, welcome to our story. Before we dive deeper, please like this video and subscribe. Also, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. It's incredibly special knowing our stories are resonating with people across the globe. My name is Marcus Rivera, 41 years old, commercial real estate broker here in Portland. To anyone looking from the outside, I had everything figured out. A corner office downtown with views of Mount Hood, a Mercedes in the garage, a high-rise apartment in the Pearl District with floor-to-ceiling windows. I was making 6 figures before I turned 35, made partner at my firm 3 months ahead of schedule. I had the life most men dream about, freedom, success, no complications. But that's the thing about success, it has a way of blinding you, of convincing you that you're in control, that your decisions are logical, rational, right. I thought I was making a mature choice when I gave Rachel that ultimatum. Terminate the pregnancy or I file for divorce. I actually believed I was being responsible, practical. I told myself a child would ruin everything we'd built, that we weren't ready, that the timing was wrong. She chose the baby. I thought she'd change her mind. I thought after a few days of thinking it through, she'd realize I was right, that she'd see reason. Instead, she let me walk away. 6 months passed. I convinced myself I'd made the right call, that I'd dodged a bullet, that I was free, until I saw her at that red light, pregnant, still carrying our child, and suddenly every justification I'd built crumbled in an instant. But here's what you need to understand. Here's what makes this story different from what you might think. Why did she keep the pregnancy a secret from me for 6 months? Did she ever try to reach out after the divorce? What was going through her mind when she saw me at that intersection? And the biggest question of all, the one that destroyed me when I finally learned the answer. What had I missed while I was busy convincing myself I'd made the right choice? Rachel and I met 7 years ago at my college roommate's wedding in Bend, Oregon. She was a bridesmaid, this elementary school teacher with the brightest smile I'd ever seen. She wore a lavender dress that day. I still remember it. She had this way of making everyone around her feel seen, like they mattered. We started talking at the reception and didn't stop for 4 hours. We dated for 2 years before I proposed on a hiking trail at Crater Lake National Park. She cried before I even finished asking the question. We got married in a small ceremony, just 50 people, her parents, my mother, close friends, nothing extravagant, just us, promising forever to each other. For the first 4 years, life was perfect. We bought a 3-bedroom house in Laurelhurst, white picket fence, red front door that Rachel insisted on painting herself. Every Sunday morning we'd make breakfast together. She'd burn the bacon, I'd overcook the eggs. We'd laugh about it while reading the newspaper on our back porch with coffee that was always too strong. Those mornings were everything. Simple, easy, real. But somewhere around year 5, something shifted. My career took off. I landed 3 major commercial properties in 6 months. My commissions tripled almost overnight. Suddenly, I was getting invited to networking events at the Columbia Tower Club, playing golf with clients at Pumpkin Ridge, flying to Seattle and San Francisco for deals. I was working 12, sometimes 14-hour days. Rachel would text me around 7 in the evening, asking if I was coming home for dinner. I'd reply the same way every time. "Big meeting, don't wait up." It became our new normal. She never complained. Not at first. Rachel wasn't the type to nag or push. She'd leave my dinner in the oven with a little note. She'd kiss my forehead when I finally crawled into bed at midnight, smelling like bourbon and cigar smoke from client dinners. But I could feel it. The distance growing between us, like a crack in a foundation that gets wider every day. And then, one night over dinner, she brought up the conversation I'd been avoiding. Children. "Marcus, I'm 32 years old. We've been married almost 5 years. I'm ready. I want to be a mum." I kept putting her off. After my next promotion, when the market stabilizes, when we have more saved up. Always another excuse, always another reason to wait. But the truth? I liked our life exactly as it was. I could take clients to Hawaii on a weekend without thinking twice, play 18 holes on Wednesday afternoons, make spontaneous decisions without considering anyone but myself. A child would change everything. The freedom, the flexibility, the control I had over my own life, and I wasn't ready to give that up. But Rachel was ready. She'd been ready. And that difference, that one fundamental disagreement, it started cracking the foundation of everything we'd built together. We started having the same argument over and over. Each time it got more heated, more painful, more desperate on her end, more defensive on mine. The conversations that used to flow easily between us became minefields. Every dinner felt tense. Every weekend felt heavy with unspoken resentment. And then one February evening everything changed. Rachel came home from work looking pale, shaken. She sat down next to me on the couch, took a deep breath, and said 3 words that stopped my world. "Marcus, I'm pregnant." 6 weeks along. She'd taken 3 tests to be sure, all positive. I should have felt joy, wonder, excitement about creating a life with the woman I loved. Instead, I felt trapped, like the walls were closing in. I had just committed to a major partnership deal at work. 2 years of intense travel and capital investment. I was on the verge of everything I'd worked for. This wasn't in the plan. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. I looked at Rachel sitting there. I could see hope in her eyes, maybe even joy beneath the obvious nervousness about how I'd react. And I shut down completely. "Rachel, we need to think about this logically." That's what I said. Logically. Like we were discussing a business transaction. "We're not financially prepared for this. My career is at a critical point. We haven't even been getting along lately. How can we bring a child into this situation?" I watched her face crumble. She told me this wasn't about logistics or timing. This was our child, a life we created together. She wanted to keep the baby. And that's when I made the first terrible mistake that would lead to everything falling apart. Over the next 2 weeks, I became obsessed with what I called the practical solution, an abortion. We could reset everything, work on our marriage first, have children later when we were truly ready, when the timing made sense. I framed it as responsibility, maturity, the rational choice any reasonable person would make. But Rachel refused. She told me she understood my fears. She really did. But she'd always wanted to be a mother, and she wasn't going to terminate this pregnancy just because the timing was inconvenient for my career. I felt betrayed, like she was making a unilateral decision that would affect both our lives forever. In my mind, she was being selfish, unreasonable, stubborn. The more she stood firm, the angrier I became. And then came the night I can never take back. March 3rd, a Tuesday evening. We'd been arguing for over an hour in our kitchen, the same kitchen where we used to burn bacon together on Sunday mornings and laugh about it. I was standing by the refrigerator. She was sitting at the table with her hands protectively over her stomach, a gesture I'd noticed her doing more and more. And I said the words that would end everything. "If you refuse to have this abortion, I want a divorce. I can't be a father right now, and I won't be forced into it." Rachel just stared at me, like she was seeing me for the first time, like she was looking at a stranger wearing her husband's face. "Are you serious?" she whispered. You're willing to throw away 7 years of marriage because I want to keep our baby? You have a choice to make, I told her, my voice cold, clinical. Either you terminate this pregnancy and we work on saving our marriage, or you keep it and I walk away. I actually thought I was giving her an ultimatum that would make her see reason, that would force her to choose me, choose us, choose the life we'd built. But Rachel looked at me with tears streaming down her face and said something I'll never forget. I won't kill our child to keep you. If that's your price for staying, then you should leave. I spent that night on the couch convinced she'd change her mind by morning. She didn't. 2 weeks later, I filed for divorce. The mediation took 6 hours. We sat across a conference table in a lawyer's office downtown. Rachel wore a loose sweater. You couldn't tell yet that she was pregnant. She barely looked at me the entire time. When it was time to sign the papers, her hand shook. Just slightly. I noticed it, but I signed anyway. I moved into a high-rise apartment in the Pearl District, all glass and steel and city views. I threw myself into work, closed 2 major deals in 3 months, made partner ahead of schedule just like I'd planned. I started dating again. Nothing serious. Just dinners with ambitious women who didn't want children either. For 6 months, I convinced myself I'd made the right decision, that I'd dodged a bullet, that I was free. And then I saw her at that red light, 8 months pregnant, still carrying our child. My coffee spilled across the passenger seat. My hands went numb on the steering wheel. The light turned green, but I couldn't move. Cars behind me started honking, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. She was walking slowly, that careful walk pregnant women do, one hand on her lower back, the other cradling her belly. She never had the abortion. She was still pregnant with my child. I jerked the wheel right, pulled into a loading zone, jumped out of my car, started walking, then jogging toward where I'd seen her. The street was crowded with the lunchtime rush. Hundreds of people. I pushed through them, scanning every face, and then I saw her standing outside Powell's Books, looking in the window, her hand on the glass. I stopped about 20 feet away. For a moment, I just watched her. She looked tired, but also peaceful. I took a step forward. I was about 10 feet away when she turned. Our eyes met, and the look on her face, it wasn't anger. It wasn't hurt. It was something worse. She looked at me like I was a stranger. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. What do you say? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Marcus. That's all she said, just my name. Rachel, I didn't know. I thought you had already. I assumed you'd gone through with it. She shook her head. Not angry, just sad. Disappointed in a way that cut deeper than any rage could have. You assumed I'd kill our baby to make your life convenient. I didn't. Her hand moved to her belly again. He kicks every morning at 7. He's healthy, strong. The doctor says he'll be here in about 3 weeks. I was going to have a son and I'd missed everything, the ultrasounds, the first kicks, the doctor visits, all of it. Rachel, please, I need to be part of this. I was wrong about everything. You made your choice, Marcus. She said it so calmly it hurt worse than if she'd screamed at me. You chose your career, your freedom, your life. I chose our son. She started to turn away, and I knew if I let her walk away right now I might never get another chance. What's his name? I called after her. She stopped. I'm naming him after my father. Thomas James. And then she disappeared into the crowd on Burnside Street. I stood there in the rain for maybe 20 minutes. People walked around me, life continued. But for me, everything had stopped. I thought that was the worst moment of my life. Finding out she kept the baby, seeing her walk away, realizing what I'd thrown away. Because what I discovered when I got home that night, it destroyed whatever was left of me. I went back to my apartment, sat in the dark, staring at the city lights, everything I'd wanted, everything I'd chosen over her. It all felt empty, meaningless. I pulled out my phone. Her name was still in my contacts, Rachel with a heart emoji. I'd never changed it. I scrolled through our text history, and I saw something that made my blood run cold. Messages I'd never read, 17 missed calls, 11 text messages, 2 emails, all from March, all from right after the divorce, all from Rachel trying to reach me. And I'd blocked her number after the first 3 calls. I thought she was trying to manipulate me, to guilt me into changing my mind. So I shut her out completely. What if she'd been trying to tell me she wanted to work things out? What if she'd been reaching out for support and I was the only one she had? I opened my laptop, went to my email, and there they were, 3 emails from Rachel, all sent in those first weeks after the divorce. The subject line of the first one said, "Please read this, it's not what you think." I opened it. What I read broke me completely. The birth control had failed. She'd been terrified. She even sat in a clinic parking lot for 45 minutes. But she couldn't go through with it, not to trap me, but because the baby became real to her. She chose both of us. She wanted both of us. But I only gave her one option. 6 months after I divorced my pregnant wife, I realized that fear is not wisdom, that running is not freedom. Real love isn't about convenience. It's about showing up even when you're terrified. Some mistakes can be forgiven. Some wounds can heal. But the time you lose, those moments are gone forever. So let me ask you something. If you were Rachel, would you have given me a second chance? Would you have let me back into your life after what I did? Drop your answer in the comments.